Welcome to Weight Loss MD's Weight Loss Workshop. My name is Sherry Stoka, and today I'm going to be talking about the gut and really how to cultivate a lean gut for optimal weight loss. So the learning objectives, I'm going to start out just helping you understand my journey and really uncovering, gut issues and other foundational issues. You're going to learn about gut permeability or leaky gut. You're going to learn why most people are walking around with food sensitivities. You're going to learn what you can do to heal the gut. And then I'm going to summarize the foundational reasons for our global health decline. So I always like to start out by reminding people that weight loss is multifactorial. There are so many things that come into play when someone is trying to not only lose weight, but keep the weight off. And it's even more important in this day and age because of the modern toxic world that we live in. So lifestyle habits such as sleep and stress play a huge role, and we will help you understand that more, but just know that we don't just say it to say it. Like it can sometimes be the biggest piece to someone's approach. So I mentioned it before, we live in a toxic world and we all need to support the liver and detox. Hormone imbalances play a big role, insulin resistance, our mental wellness, nutrient deficiencies. We live in a world that we're overfed and undernourished. Our food is stripped of nutrients and we're getting more calories than we should. So this is obviously affecting our ability to lose weight and then, of course, our gut health. So I'm going to just really summarize my journey. My journey has been many, many years, but I thought it was really important to kind of help people understand not only, why I started this business, but why I do weight loss the way I do. I mean, it's a very unique approach, and it really comes with the years of just my own personal journey. So I started having GI issues. I don't know, it was probably like in high school. And then when I got to college, the symptoms started to really increase. And which, you think about soccer, and I played Division I soccer at UW-Madison. So the stress of school, stress of soccer, eating habits were not good. A lot of pressure, had sleep deprivation, etc. So all of these things were like the perfect storm to an unhealthy body. And so I started to notice just inflammation. And obviously I was young then, I had no idea what was going on. So, I would fluctuate 10 to 12 pounds. I remember coming back home one weekend and my face just kind of like ballooned up. And I was at my friend's house, and her dad was like, what happened to you? Your face looks like a chipmunk. And so like it's those things that I just remember that you never, just kind of sticks with you for a long time. So it didn't make sense to me. So I think that probably led to more obsessive working out. So I always was a, obsessive runner. I mean, obviously I was even playing soccer. So working out probably 3 to 4 hours a day. And I could not get the inflammation down. So, my journey continues. I finished college and the GI issues continue. So I started seeing doctor after doctor. I saw a number of GI specialists. I saw a couple surgeons to see if I needed to remove my colon because it simply was not working. And so I lived a life of basically being controlled and ruled by my gut. And still, earlier in my kid's life, it was the same thing. It was like, how's mom feeling today? Are we going to be able to do what we do? Because I, suffered for so many years. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism at age 29, which obviously that was probably playing a role in my inflammation, but it actually wasn't just hypothyroidism. I mean, I was treated for hypothyroidism with, Synthroid at the time, or levothyroxine. And so I really started to take a step back and start to think about why I had this. I mean, I've always believed there were reasons for developing conditions, and I, perceive myself as healthy. I mean, I was playing super high level soccer. I started to eat healthier in my 30s. My 20s was not good. And so I, you know, really became obsessed with trying to figure this out. And Hashimoto's, I learned, was an autoimmune disease. And then it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, well, of course I have Hashimoto's autoimmunity because I had gut issues for so long. And, you know, over time, that is just going to cause many other imbalances in the body. So along with, you know, the gut issues, it didn't really know what caused like the gut issues earlier. I do have suspicion with some of my habits that I was doing, but I think it all kind of started to really manifest when I was in college, because I was exposed to mold. So it was my mold, it was the diet I was eating. I was like a chronic candy, you know, gum chewer, that type of thing. And then the stress in my body. So that kind of all together really put me in a, you know, not so optimal state. I am so grateful and thankful to this day, though, just because I did survive, you know, a very high intense athletic career, and it was a very successful career. And I really, you know, even though all of those things that were going on in my body, I was still known to be the one that ran the longest. I had endurance to, you know, to last forever. And so I do feel, you know, there were certain points in my career that obviously held me back, but for the most part, my body was like always just compensating. So, you know, during college in my 20s, and then, you know, kind of getting in earlier, I guess, before like 30s and 40s. So it was all about like my physique and my, you know, my lean body to, you know, for sports. But then later it now became, I'm like, okay, I need to figure this out, because all of these issues long-term is going to turn into something else. So it obviously later became more about my health. So what I have learned in this process is that my gut issues really exacerbated from mold exposure, which was in college. I mean, it could have been earlier in my life for sure. Who knows the types of, you know, the houses that we were living in? I don't know. So mold is known to be the immune system hijacker. It will literally cause your immune system to go haywire. And that's obviously autoimmunity. Your autoimmune system gets overworked, and then it gets confused, and then it starts attacking your own tissue. So my gut issues resulted in Hashimoto's, my weight gain. So when I was in college, and even after, you know, I went on to play in the women's professional league, I would have these ebbs and flows of inflammation. And so what I, you know, started to learn, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but started to learn is that it was the inflammation that was really causing these fluctuations and, you know, and the other imbalances in my body. So my insane drive to heal myself when no doctor could, it honestly, and this is, you know, no disrespect to anyone out there who is, you know, an MD, it's just that our system is not designed to look beyond what they're trained on. You know, these algorithms that really the end game is pharmaceuticals. So that is when, you know, for me, it was a good thing, because I basically took it on. I mean, I haven't seen a doctor, knock on wood, in how long. I mean, I've been managing my health for forever. But so that's essentially why, you know, why I became the gut expert, as well as obviously weight loss. So I talk a little bit more about this in my podcast, if anyone's interested in hearing more, if you know, just to see if you can relate to the story. And because, you know, at the end of the day, everybody has a health journey story, and I'm just here to help people understand really foundationally where the imbalances begin and really how it affects your overall health and your ability to lose weight. Mold, like I said, it cannot be discounted in any way, shape, or form. The majority of people have lived with mold. The majority of people do not know that mold is the the foundational problem to their health issues. So I guess the whole point of this is that if you know for sure you have lived in mold and you're dealing with a bunch of issues, the first thing to do is, get your environment tested and then get mold tested in your body. You really, because you will never get better until you address this piece. So some symptoms of mold toxicity will be, you tell people that you have allergies or you're sensitive to mold. You go in, certain hotels or other houses, maybe even your own house, and you get symptomatic. And a lot of those symptoms are like, sinus, brain fog. Well, I'm gonna kind of stick to my list. So food sensitivities can be a part of it. Sensitive to chemicals or just strong scents. Oh my gosh, this is me forever. Like, still to this day, I can't even go near like a Bath and Body Works, or even when, I go to my mom's for Christmas and there's all these candles. It's like, the mold just kind of takes over, and, I still feel like I have some of those effects of the sensitivity. Ringing in the ears can be a symptom, rashes, full body rashes all over. That's just, again, another sign that your immune system is a little confused. Inflammation, obviously, brain fog, and constipation. So I talked about the microbiome in the previous presentation, and I'm going to continue to talk about this because, we really need to understand how important our microbiome is. It regulates our weight, our immune function, our digestive function, our mood, and our overall mental health. So the gut and the brain have this pathway, this signaling system that is connected, and there's constant communication between the gut and the brain. So whatever happens in the brain affects the gut, whatever happens in the gut affects the brain. So, again, helping, really understanding that piece is crucial. And I mean, all the newer research is coming out with Alzheimer's and dementia and the people that have this neurological decline. It's all back to the gut. So, what we feed our bodies affects, obviously, the ecosystem, our microbiome, which really in turn affects all the other systems in the body. You are in balance when you feel great. You're out of balance when you're tired, you're sad, you're tense, hungry, you feel heavy, bloated, confused, you're stiff, etc. So anytime you feel crappy, it's usually that your gut is out of balance. So Hippocrates said hundreds and hundreds of years ago, it was that long ago. I mean, it was probably much longer than that. But he said back then, all disease begins in the gut. So this is not new information. It's just been neglected for so long and too long. And like I just mentioned, there are so many people now talking about this. It is one of the most highly researched areas right now. So that's all very good. There's so much we don't know, but what we do know can be life-changing. So I'm going to talk just briefly and, very basic terms, but a healthy gut versus a leaky gut. So you can see this image here, and you have, this healthy gut here, and then you have the leaky gut. So this is basically our intestinal mucosal cells. So our epithelial lining. It is one cellular layer thick, and it's joined by these really, really tight junctions. So this is our GI tract, and everything really to get into the body, the majority of it has to go through the GI tract and get absorbed and all of that. I mean, we have, like the blood-brain barrier. So there's other systems in the body that are very protective, but I'm speaking specific to the gut right now. So a healthy gut is going to be, these tight junctions are super tight. It's going to keep anything out. So if anything tries to get in, such as antibiotics, undigested food, you drink water and there's certain parasites and things in there. So that's going to keep a lot of those things out. Now, with the majority of people walking around with leaky gut, what happens is these tight junctions begin to separate. And when they separate, it causes inflammation. And then this inflammation basically is the beginning of, this damaged tissue. And so now all of these things start to get into circulation. And this is really when the whole body, all of the systems start to become affected. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So, again, what can pass into our bloodstream? Anything. Gluten, parasites, unhealthy or harmful pathogens, toxins, heavy metals, undigested food particles, mold spores. So again, this is just another image of, our epithelial lining. You can see leaky gut, inflamed, things are getting through. Our immune cells, a lot of our immune system, I believe it's like 75% of our immune cells sit in our gut because it's there for a reason. It's going to attack all the things that get through that are not supposed to get through. So you can see here what all occurs in the gut, obviously nutrient absorption, but if there's things getting through full food, there's malabsorption. Autoimmunity begins to occur when things are getting in because the immune system now is getting very confused. You develop food intolerances because now full food, more intact proteins are getting through and the body doesn't recognize that. And so again, it starts this whole inflammatory process. So what are the causes? And you can see this image, like these are actual like holes in the gut. I mean, it's pretty crazy what can happen. But there are many different things that can cause leaky gut. And stress in itself, whether it's emotional or physical, even being a high performing athlete, that is such a huge physical stress on the body. And that in itself can destroy your gut health. That's why I am like constantly promoting gut health with, well, especially my children, my kids, because they're playing such high level soccer right now. Lack of sleep, poor eating, obviously. If you're someone that was on vacation, you had food poisoning or some other insult to the gut, whether it was like an injury, that could have lifelong consequences. Antibiotic overuse. Listen, if you think about the ecosystem, and I probably mentioned it before, and we're going in to kill a specific, infection, you're killing everything, all the surrounding, all the healthy organisms around it. So the more you go on these medications, the more compromised, the more injured your gut is going to become. We're going to do a whole presentation on medications that really not only affect the gut, but really make it very difficult for people to lose weight. But just some other meds would be steroids, acid reflux are the biggies. Environmental toxins, mold spores, you breathe it in, they start to colonize all throughout your GI tract. They can colonize everywhere. They can colonize in your mouth. So this is a big piece that people are not thinking about. And then there's the mental part, really having negative thoughts, or you're just, you're a pessimist. Everything is, everything in your life doesn't go well, and you're, verbalizing and articulating that. So that also has significant effect on your overall health and your gut. So gut health and weight gain, what is the correlation here? So essentially, when you have gut issues, you have inflammation. You have this low-grade inflammation. Any type and every disease starts with an inflammatory process. So if you are, disease can start in when you're a child. I mean, at 10 years old, these kids are, there's kids developing now fatty liver, type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's crazy. Their disease process has started so early on. But that doesn't mean you have to have a diagnosis. Like the progression is beginning. So inflammation is the start of that. And that's going to draw, in fluid retention, because that's just the body's natural way of the healing process. It's used to damage, inflammation, heal, but now we have chronic inflammation. So it's really hard for people to lose weight because the body's constantly like hanging on to water. Nutrient depletions absolutely can cause weight gain. The majority of people are deficient in magnesium, zinc, iron, and calcium. Malabsorption, so fatty acid deficiency is huge. I mean, we need fats, we need essential fats so bad in our diet, and we don't eat a lot of the healthy fats for one, and then we have so many gut issues that we're malabsorbing this. We're malabsorbing these vitamins and minerals all the time. A compromised immune system, again, when you have gut issues, you have a compromised immune system. This compromised immune system can, again, cause stress on the body. It makes you more susceptible to pathogenic overgrowth and infections because, listen, your immune system is basically told what to do by your gut bacteria. And when your gut is compromised, you can imagine the direction it's telling your immune system to go. It doesn't know what to do because more of the bad guys are kind of running the show. So now you are just that person that, you know, no matter where you go, like you're constantly getting sick, or you have chronic sinus infections or UTIs. You know, the story, we see these things over and over, but I will say there's some people that have such significant gut issues and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm never sick. So don't just think because you don't get sick often doesn't necessarily mean you don't have underlying gut issues. I'm going to talk more about Candida, but Candida is a yeast or fungus, and this can be normal part of our ecosystem. But when this starts to overgrow due to a number of different reasons, and the main reason is compromised immune system, because the immune system kind of keeps this fungus at bay, at good, healthy amounts. But now, because of our diet and our immune system, we have this overgrowth, and that in itself is causing these ravenous sugar cravings because yeast, lives and thrives off of sugar. Food sensitivities. If you have food sensitivities, it's a major warning sign that you have leaky gut. Listen, we're not supposed to get bloated and sick and run to the bathroom every time we eat certain foods. I'll talk a little bit about dairy, but it's an opportunity for you to have a conversation with your patient. You need to be asking these questions. Do you have food sensitivities? What foods make you feel good? What foods do you feel exhausted from? I mean, being tired after you eat can also be a food sensitivity. So thinking about those things, the immune response from eating certain foods can lead to autoimmunity, because again, you have this underlying gut issue, and now food becomes a problem. And so the more you eat these foods that your body reacts to, now that's going to result in autoimmunity because the immune system is being overworked. And now again, just confused. So some examples of those autoimmune conditions would be diabetes, Hashimoto's, MS, arthritis, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, but there's so many more. I mean, did a presentation and I forget what the number was, but it was like there's like 400 different autoimmune conditions now because it's growing leaps and bounds. So food sensitivities causes also severe nutrient malabsorption. So you're not really breaking down, digesting the food that you're consuming. So don't think that if your diet is pretty good, which I thought for a while because I ate so many vegetables, but I died like every time I ate them. And so I was like, how can this be going on? I eat really healthy, I eat vegetables, but those vegetables were actually destroying me more than helping me. So it is what you digest and absorb. It is not just about what you eat. Common deficiencies include, and I think I mentioned this before, but also B12. Our gut has to be healthy in order for us to absorb B12, zinc, magnesium, and iron. So just a bit about lactose intolerance, because I mean, how many people walk around and say, oh yeah, I don't I love dairy. I love it so much, but I think I have like some type of lactose intolerance. So I wanted to put this slide up. It's, it's kind of like common sense, but I want you to think differently about dairy. And I want you to not just assume somebody has lactose intolerance. So lactose intolerance or malabsorption obviously is when a good amount of lactose is not absorbed. So the body's not breaking it down due to the lactase, and it's being, kind of delivered to the colon. And that's causing all of these, massive symptoms. So you could also develop lactose intolerance from, some type of trauma or injury or disease state. But just in general speaking, most humans, most Americans don't, or not Americans, most humans don't have the ability to break down dairy as they get older. There are some people who have adequate lactase, but the majority of people do not. And, dairy has become such a inflammatory food. If you think about it, where does dairy come from? It comes from cows. Cows are mistreated. They have infections. They're injected with hormones. They're injected with antibiotics. I mean, they are a walking disaster. And that is what we are eating. We're getting all of that stuff from the milk and the meat and all of that. So just keep this in mind. Dairy is one of the first things that I am pulling out of people's diet when they have a lot of issues, because you cannot get better by consuming dairy. Now, there is going to be some dairy alternatives that are more in like the raw state that can be healthy alternatives, but our dairy has just turned into a processed mess, basically. So again, just to reiterate, if someone comes in and is like, oh, dairy just throws me, into the bathroom forever, there's probably something way more significant going on than just, you probably just need some, to drink lactate or take some enzymes. So a little bit more about Candida, which is the fungus overgrowth that I was alluding to. And so I know this photo actually is, I was trying to find some really good images, but Candida can be super aggressive and super offensive in the body. Some signs, obviously a lot of people are familiar with like thrush and a lot in the oral cavity, because Candida can grow anywhere in the body. And when it does, like I said, it's strong, it's invasive, and it can attach to the intestinal wall and literally become a permanent resident there. So even though we have a small amount of Candida in our intestinal tract, if it overgrows, it's gonna like run the show and make you feel miserable. It can cause a number of different health issues because it's constantly secreting toxic chemicals and depletes the body of magnesium and potassium. Like I said, it can travel to other parts of the body and invade those tissues. The joints, it can be contributed to certain inflammatory joint conditions, arthritis, etc. The chest, sinus, upper GI is really common, and in the respiratory tract. So your immune system, when you have Candida overgrowth, your immune system is compromised because, we're looking for all this stuff. And in the testing that we do, it's going to tell us how the immune system is functioning. When the immune system is totally, shunted, we know that there's probably, Candida overgrowth going on. Candida, again, feeds off of the sugar that you eat. It can eat many different things, but it prefers sugar. So the more sugar you eat, the more you're going to allow for Candida to overgrow. LPS and inflammation. So there are certain strains of bacteria that produce LPS, which is this lipopolysaccharides. It's part of the gram-negative bacteria. These are some examples you can see listed there. E. coli, Klebsiella, Enterobacter, Proteus, and all of these can be correlated with autoimmunity. And that's another cool thing about the GI testing that we do. We can see if there's overgrowth of these more inflammatory bacterial markers. And I did want to just make a note here. We're going to talk again about the diet in more detail, but it is all about feeding the ecosystem that lives within us. This is what makes up the human body. And keto is such a hot topic, but it's super important to understand that humans were made to eat fruits and vegetables and carbohydrates. I mean, sugar is the primary fuel for the human body, believe it or not. So when we go to these drastic measures of the keto diet for long periods of time, that is going to cause more damage to the body as well, just because of, it's not eating the healthy strains of bacteria, it's actually starving the healthy strains, and it's feeding more of the unhealthy strains, because unhealthy bacteria, they love fat, basically. It's going to cause more inflammation in the liver and could result in metabolic disease as well. So again, it's just pointing out that keto is, I think keto has a very important place in our health, but it cannot be used long term. So when we look at an obese microbiome versus a lean microbiome, so these are some of the things that we see. We're going to see strains of bacteria that produce poor energy balance, poor glucose metabolism, and then again, you have this low-grade inflammation. Bacterial diversity is significant. And this is really, I talked a little bit about this in the first presentation, but we are losing the diversity of these strains. I mean, they're becoming extinct because of the food that we consume. We can see on certain tests that if there's an elevated Firmicutes or Bacteroides ratio, then there's more likelihood that this person has weight issues. And again, we see this balance of these two categories because of just the poor, horrendous food that has become the standard American diet. H. pylori, oh my gosh, almost every person has H. pylori, and H. pylori is a bacteria, and it's very unique because it actually can reside in the stomach lining, so in the upper GI, and not many strains of bacteria can survive there because it's so acidic. It's supposed to be so acidic, but because of the medications, because we're doing so much, we're not maintaining the acidity of the gut. So now all of these other organisms are able to grow. And H. pylori, which again we see in the majority of tests that we do, it reduces ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. So people will report just being hungry all the time. So elevated short chain fatty acids, that's what that stands for, really demonstrates that more food is being extracted or utilized. Short chain fatty acids are super duper beneficial, but if you have this imbalance and you have really high levels, then your different strains can eat too much, basically. The common foods that damage your intestinal lining are the following. Gluten, dairy, mentioned dairy, sushi has parasites all the time. That's why they give you wasabi, hoping that if you eat sushi, make sure you're eating wasabi because there's parasites in that. GMO and processed foods, processed sugar, beans can be really, really hard on the gut, soaking, and then it has the lectins and that whole story. But it's really recommended that you break down if you soak the beans, be able to break down those, the lectins and the fibrous exterior of the bean. And then there's rice, very, very bad, wheat and soy. And this is our diet, right? I mean, this is the majority of food that we are consuming. So a lean microbiome, what we know, is one that is rich in diversity. So a variety of different strains. Akkermansia is a strain that in research after study after study basically shows that it's associated with improved metabolic health. So it helps with all of these things: insulin sensitivity, glucose metabolism, fat metabolism, etc. And it is also very much involved in protecting the mucus layer. So you can see here in this image, I'm going to move. Okay, so this is again epithelial lining, and then this is like your mucosal layer. This is an extra layer of protection, really protecting things, bacteria or certain parasites and all the other things getting close to your intestinal epithelium. So what happens is people that don't have, we literally will find this in their tests that they do not have any detectable levels of this Akkermansia. Akkermansia is a keystone species. We need to have it, but it has become extinct. So when it has become extinct, then you can really make a good assumption that this mucosal layer has been deteriorated. So it is going to help restore the gut mucus thickness. So we're spending a lot of time with patients and trying to restore and rebuild that Akkermansia. A high-fat diet and alcohol can reduce Akkermansia. High FODMAP can increase Akkermansia. So fiber is really going to feed this particular strain. So just a touch on high FODMAP, because I think most people hear low FODMAP. And so low FODMAP, again, can be really effective short-term. It's one of the diets that, eliminates the most healthiest prebiotics that humans can ingest. So you really need to know what you're doing when you're working with people on low FODMAP, because if they continue that, they'll never get better. So how do you cultivate a lean gut? You have to increase strains that metabolize fat, decrease strains that are inflammatory and destructive, provide nutrients that heal the gut, identify common nutrient deficiencies, minimize strains that cause constipation. So going after those, the methanogens is a kind of a category of bacteria that when we see this elevated, we know that people have constipation issues and just gas and bloating. They're gas producers. They slow down the gut motility significantly. Reduce organisms that drive cravings and really know how to feed for a lean gut. We have to start eating healthier foods that we know will feed the healthy bacteria. I'm going to talk a little bit about probiotics. So again, I think a lot of confusion out there about probiotics, prebiotics, etc. So probiotics are viable. They are supposed to be alive, and they are microbial agents that have been shown to improve your health. A lot of people hear about, yogurt, fermented milk, kimchi, kombucha, raw, or apple cider vinegar. So these are actually no longer considered probiotics. They kind of looked at certain foods that were like, highly marketed as having a lot of probiotics. And so now they're kind of pulling back on that because of the processing nature of a lot of our foods, especially yogurt. And also, there's not been any proof showing that they actually have the healthy strains that have been demonstrated in research. So I'm not saying that these foods are not healthy. They absolutely are and have other benefits, like apple cider vinegar. Oh my gosh, it's one of the best things you can do for your health. Not everybody can consume like kombucha or fermented milk. But again, not saying that they're not healthy. They just are not, considered like the really high probiotic foods. And yogurt, I'm not really a fan of yogurt. I think if you get, the clean, the more in a raw state, but yogurt is really just pumped with dyes and colors and sugar. And really, the majority of the time, it's not really providing any nutritional value whatsoever. Probiotics actually do not colonize the gut. There are some companies that are stating that their research shows their probiotics will colonize the gut. So essentially, that would be more of like the spore form probiotics. And so probiotics, really, you take it, they help with, like digestion and absorption, and then they're excreted. So what we want them to do is, if they're beneficial, we want them to actually stay there and grow, but that's not really what probiotics do. Prebiotics are different, and I'll talk briefly about that. Most probiotics that you consume, especially if they're sitting on the shelves at Walgreens or Walmart, which you shouldn't be buying those anyway, they the majority of them don't pass through the stomach acid. So they die there. They die before they get to the colon, where they're supposed to do all of this, provide the healthy benefits of all the different mechanisms of action. But again, important to realize that, a lot of them don't survive. So if you're taking a probiotic for a really long time and you notice nothing, then you probably shouldn't take it anymore. So Saccharomyces boulardii is an awesome it's a probiotic. It's a yeast rather than a bacteria. And this is huge for the immune system. It's huge if you have for candida overgrowth, because it will start to take over, because it's a healthy yeast. It'll start to kill off all of the unhealthy yeast or candida. So it's not a normal part of our commensal, but I mean, it's been shown to be so beneficial for so many reasons. So we do know that there are certain strains that aid in weight loss, and these are some that have been identified. You can see here, and then there are certain strains or supplements with those weight loss strains. And I'm sure there's more. I pulled these a while ago, so I'm sure there's more. I know Amari, if people are familiar with that, they have like a product last year they came out with that was for lean body mass and that type of thing. But these are just a couple. So again, I think the more important thing is just really knowing the different strains of like probiotic. I mean, listen, you can just work with people with different probiotics because they all do so many different things. So how do you cultivate a lean gut? You have to diversify your diet. You have to stop eating the same things over and over. We all do it. I do it. I try to, buy different root vegetables every time I go to the grocery store, just to kind of get that variety, because it's so important. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, if it's not so toxic and GMO. Beans can be very, very good, as long as, again, you're cooking and it's not, destroying your gut versus helping. Prebiotics, everybody needs to be on some type of prebiotic. And basically what this is non-digestible oligosaccharides. So you have like fructose oligosaccharides, galactose oligosaccharides. Inulin is a big one. So this is like, they usually come in like a powder form. It is food for the healthy stuff that's already in our gut. So we're trying to flourish and cultivate what is already in our gut. So the beneficial strains. And prebiotics are just, I cannot say enough about them. And really nobody is taking these. Everyone's taking probiotics. I don't really know if they help, but prebiotics is a big one. They can do a number of different things. Like I said, they selectively stimulate the growth of the healthy strains, and they can also help with weight loss. They can help with gut barrier function. They can help with hunger signaling, GLP-1 and that type of thing. So getting tested is going to take all of the guessing out of it, for sure. So, that's another, we're going to talk a lot about the testing in more detail, but this will open your eyes to the opportunity to really be more strategic. And then there's a gazillion supplements or nutrients out there that say, heal the gut, fix the gut, improve digestion, et cetera, et cetera. These, I just threw a couple of them there, but at the end of the day, none of this will work if you don't really know what is going on. What is going on in the gut, that is all about customizing and being very strategic. Lifestyle factors are just as important for our gut health. We must avoid antibiotics whenever possible. Other medications, again, we're going to be talking more about it. Processed food, drinks, even 0-calorie, artificial this, oh my gosh, it's nonstop. So this is all really killing, and destroying our gut. If you don't get enough sleep, that's going to affect it. So trying to get at least 7 hours of quality sleep every night, that's really going to help the body rejuvenate and regenerate. Eating frequently, we will talk about this more when we talk about the different diets, but intermittent fasting can be powerful, not only for just like weight loss, but it's huge for healing the gut, because at the end of the day, when we have an injured organ and we are asking this injured organ to do a massive job, it's just like breaking your leg and telling, someone to go play with a broken leg. You cannot continue to put strain and damage on an injury that's already suffering. So intermittent fasting, allowing the gut to rest and repair. Over exercising, that physical stress on the body, your gut will definitely need to be supported. Stress, again, stress hormones, cortisol, when these are constantly elevated, that wreaks havoc on the gut. And meditation has been shown time and time again to help with healing of the body, which of course also is gut healing. When your gut starts to heal, this is what you will notice. Clear skin, reduced allergies or sensitivities, obviously going to have a lower risk of disease, improved cognitive function, like all of this, and it happens so quickly. You're going to absorb more nutrients. You're going to have less anxiety and depression, less food sensitivities, more energy, stronger immune system, reduce inflammation and pain. Your gut drives your hormones. So if you have hormones that are all over the place, go to your gut, improve mood. So, and we see this over and over, it all starts here. So just a quick snapshot of some of the tests that I've been alluding to. This is our GI map. It is literally just one small piece, one page of it. But you can see that we're looking for specific strains that do many different things. So this is just showing you that there are strains that look at autoimmune triggers, overgrowth of, different strains that should not be overgrowing. You can look at parasites. Then it also looks at worms and viruses. It looks at inflammation. Is there blood in the stool? I mean, the test that we use is so valuable on so many levels. And, and then digging deeper into the certain strains, because they carry out many different functions. And you want the strains that are healthy for you. You want to obviously mitigate and go after and sometimes remove strains that should not be there. And then we do a food sensitivity test as well. And this is huge. I mean, it's so valuable because you have food sensitivity because you have gut issues. So when you're just trying to heal the gut, it makes a lot of sense to also know what foods right now are causing inflammation or destruction. Because if you're doing all the right things with your gut healing protocols, but then you're eating your apples and apricots and blueberries for lunch every day, well, this is really going to slow the process. So doing these two tests together are crucial, and always understand that this is a process. This isn't a one and done, because your food sensitivities and your gut health is going to change as you manage. So when people are really motivated to get better, we probably do these, I would say, every 6 months, and then not more than 3 times, but really to get a gauge on the improvement. So what is the untold story of weight loss? So basically our ecosystem determines our energy balance. Certain bacteria strains store calories while others burn. Insulin resistance, most people don't know they have it. So insulin resistance is causing your body to store fat, and that fat is becoming inflammatory and no longer usable to the body. Inflammation, everyone's walking around with this low-grade inflammation, and it's causing just beginning of so many other things. But obviously, it's also resulting in food sensitivities, sugar dysregulation, etc. So what we find is that some people do use the continuous glucose monitoring or monitors, and it actually was me, my own personal experience, but carrots were inflammatory to me. And when I was wearing my continuous glucose monitor, the carrots spiked my blood sugar significantly. And that was because of, obviously, it was a stressor. It was a stress on the body. It wasn't because the carrot had so much sugar, because I mean, it was literally like one carrot. So it was really that my gut was like in shock when I ate carrot. Fat metabolism, like I said, most people are unable to access the right fat stores because these fats become inflammatory, and these inflammatory fat cells can actually start producing more fat cells. Believe it or not, they can start producing more of these inflammatory compounds, which is crazy. And so lean gut versus an obese gut, you really are what you feed your bacteria. So just a quick testimonial or on one of our patients, because it was basically one of our biggest success stories. This is Dan. So Dan came into us, it's been a while ago, maybe like 4 years ago. And I remember him walking in the door, and we all kind of we greeted him up because he just walked in. He didn't have an appointment, and he came in and basically said that, you know, he needed help, and he didn't know what to do anymore. He didn't feel like he was eating that bad. And, you know, I was just like, there were so many things going through my mind, but essentially, like, he shocked me to the core on his determination and motivation in all of this. So in 1 year, Dan went from 420 pounds to 223. His BMI went from 57 to 30. His body fat percentage went from 54.9 to 20% body fat. This is so significant. So 230 pounds of his total body weight at 420 was fat. And then he went down to 46 pounds of his total body weight was fat afterwards. So significant. He continued to lose. These are just some of the results after 1 year. I mean, I think he's like low 200 now. Started working out like he's a different person. And visceral fat, so that's the deeper belly inflammatory fat, went from an unhealthy 20 to a normal 10. And before I get to his picture, so I just wanted to reiterate the importance of really being strategic when you really need to. I'm not saying that this is for everybody. Some people go on our quick 4-week strategic weight loss programs that get weight off and heal the body at the same time, but some people do require more of a laid out, more strategic approach. So treating the foundation and just thinking that it's all about restricting calories is literally going to get you nowhere. You have to know what's going on in the gut. You must reverse insulin resistance. You have to be able to target and lose that inflammatory fat. So that's our strategic weight loss programs. We target and get rid of that inflammatory fat. So that's huge. Eliminate the daily consumption of chemicals, preservatives, additives, dyes, fragrances, etc. Listen, this is being stored in your body. Your body's not eliminating it. I mean, it's getting rid of some things, but for the most part, this is why you have so much inflammation, because the majority of the stuff that we eat is not real. And then teach and educate and empower so patients have the tools and skills for success. Some of the basics just need to be reiterated over and over. And that is stop eating junk food, like meaning like all the food that we have access to, essentially, unless you're, you know, eating the whole foods and getting access to the fresh, you know, organic options. And here's Dan. I mean, he just looks like a total different human being. And like I said, I mean, he even lost more since then. So just such an incredible story. And so let's recap. I think I've said it a million times now, but you must heal and rebalance the body for optimal weight loss. Weight loss will never be maintained by calorie restriction and exercise alone. Food sensitivities and GI symptoms are not normal. So if somebody comes in and complains about this, if you just act like, okay, let's just try certain things and you're not getting anywhere, you're probably going to have to go a little deeper. Brain fog, migraines, fatigue, sugar cravings, insomnia are not normal. We need to help people understand that they can feel unbelievable. And we all just are caught up in this cycle of feeling like crap because the next person that we are hanging out with feels like crap. So we think it's normal and we think it's just part of the aging process, but I'm here to tell you it's not. So again, looking deeper into that, 80 plus, I think it's a little more, but of chronic diseases today are preventable and curable. So these are lifestyle diseases. And I just threw a couple more pictures in here, but this guy lost 80 pounds, 63 of it was fat. And we have another guy here that lost 74 pounds in all 70 pounds of just fat because we're very strategic in that. So when I say strategic, it is literally, again, reinforcing the fact that you have to get rid of the inflammatory fat. These two people, moderate risk, highest risk. This is subcutaneous fat. This is pinchable. This is someone who can pinch their belly. This is someone who cannot pinch their belly. It's hard because all of the fat is deep in surrounding the internal organs. This is causing so much damage in the body. So we target this. Abnormal fat is the main cause of comorbidities. So atherosclerosis, never was able to say that word. Liver issues, insulin resistance, mitochondria dysfunction, oxidative stress. Visceral fat, like I said, increases insulin resistance, increases free fatty acids and cytokine release. So more inflammation affects the pancreas, obviously, which controls insulin, and then your coronary heart disease. So we have to get rid of the inflammatory abnormal fat. Like I said, 80% plus of all chronic diseases are preventable. And so we need to do more. We need to be able to help these people. And a big piece to that is waking people up and helping them understand that it's more significant than what they know. And it is going to entail starting with the foundational of just healthier eating. All right, so what are some actionable steps that you can do today in working with your patients? You can create a symptom assessment that looks deeper into gut health. There's many out there. You can search Google in the symptom assessment for gut health. Start thinking about a plan or a protocol for patients with gut issues. So that will be different for those who are going to do testing versus those that just want to take different approaches with a protocol, because that can help with some people. They do just need a reboot. And the third thing is working with patients to remove the common inflammatory foods. Trust me, you will see changes almost immediately. Dairy, gluten, and processed sugar, immediately inflammation goes down. All of the other symptoms, you can get pretty far just by doing that. So that is it. Thank you very much. And we look forward to our next presentation, which is going to be on genetics and how they play a role. Thank you.